Greetings all, Last Outrider here with another fascinating video, and I'm sure you're all happy to get it. This time we're going to ask, is 40k fascist? Another one of those great, supposedly pseudo-critical questions of Warhammer 40k. And I'm going to answer it directly right now, and then I'm going to explain why this is one of the most idiotic questions you can ask just in general. First, let's go down the checklist here according to Wikipedia of what are the characteristics of being a fascist society or government. Okay? Bing. Number 1. Is the Imperium or any other government in 40k authoritarian? Yes, the Imperium is authoritarian. Check. Is the Imperium or any other faction in 40k ultra-nationalist? Meaning, do they hate anybody else who disagrees with them? In this case, anybody not the Imperium, which would be Xenos. And on the other hand, do all of the Xenos hate anybody who is not them? Does Chaos hate anybody who's not Chaos? Or even within Chaos, does it hate anybody who's not in their particular faction? Or I should say, disagree with strongly. Yes, check. The Imperium and every other faction in 40k are ultra-nationalist. Is the Imperium dictatorial power structure? Yes. The Imperium and, as I said, every other faction in 40k is dictatorial. What else? Does the Imperium forcibly suppress opposition? Can you start to see how silly these questions are when applied to 40k? Yes, the Imperium and every other faction in the Imperium forcibly suppresses opposition to itself. Okay. Is the Imperium a strongly regimented society? People should really just start giggling to themselves right now. Yes, the Imperium is a strongly regimented society, and so is every other society in 40k. All right. Is the economy of the Imperium also strongly regimented to carry out the goals of the Imperium? Yes, the economy of the Imperium is strongly controlled and regimented to carry out the goals of the Imperium. Same with the economies of every other faction in 40k is strongly regimented to carry out the goals of those factions. So, yes, 40k as a whole is fascist. Not just the Imperium, but everybody in it is fascist. Now, that's the simple answer to this question. The next question is, what's the real point of asking this question in the first place? Do you know? I don't know. Let's go through the answer then of what it truly means to be fascist. Where did the word fascist or fascism even come from? You might be surprised. Fascism came from the Roman Republic. It actually comes, and I'm going to test my Latin here a little bit, from the fascius, right? It's fascius. And that's the stick, the axe, which is surrounded by a bunch of sticks which are tied together, right? This was used as a symbol of Roman civic authority. And, by the way, it's also a symbol on the United States seal. And it's even, the fascist motto is even used as the motto of the United States. What's that? E pluribus unum. The many are one, with a fascius put on the seal of the United States. One stick can be broken, but many sticks together are unbreakable. That is the idea of fascism, the literal name, coming from fascius. Now, when you start looking at it from that point of view, you ask yourself, okay, so when did fascism become bad? Aha, good question. Now, we're going to look at what's bad isn't fascism. No. What's bad was hypocrisy. What do you mean? What do I mean is, when you look at the dystopian fascist regimes portrayed in science fiction, for example, you have to separate which ones are actual dystopian futures and which ones are just futures predicted. 1984, fascist. Dune, but again, strongly borrowed from in 40k and by Games Workshop, fascist. Brave New World, also borrowed from in 40k, fascist. But are they necessarily dystopian? And this is going to raise a lot of questions from people. Because, interestingly enough, and some of these stories are made even by the same writers, are not hypocritical. What do I mean? Look at the movie Equilibrium. This is a classic example. If you know that movie Equilibrium, you know, with Christian Bale and the gun katas and the grammaton clerics, which is really a classic movie at this point. I hope most people in science fiction have seen it. You know, the gun katas, fantastic stuff. But see, that movie becomes dystopian. Oh, Gattaca as well. Is Gattaca really a dystopian future, or just the future, or a future? You see what I'm saying? Is Star Trek, which, by the way, fascist, ultra-fascist government, the Federation, and, by the way, the Klingons, and every government, pretty much, in Star Trek, ultra-fascist. Yes, according to, look at that checklist that I gave at the beginning. Yeah, they're all fascists, especially the Federation. The real question then becomes, are they hypocritical? That's when something becomes dystopian. Like Equilibrium. You know, they have this strong ideology that they enforce on everybody else. But then what happens with the is that you peek behind the curtain of the ruling elite and see that they are secretly breaking all the rules that they're requiring other people to live by. that's when you become dystopian. That's when fascism becomes a lie and just a control mechanism by those who secretly want to do something else. That's dystopian. But if you look at these stories, like I said, where they don't do that, where the leaders, all the way up to the top and running it, it's as if you were to find out, for example, in 40k, that the Emperor is secretly a chaos worshipper in league with Xenos powers. Then you blow your mind. That would make the Imperium a dystopian fascism. Okay? Right? Secretly, the Custodes and the High Lords of Terra and the Emperor are all actually in league with the Cabal and Chaos. And they're just forcing all of these ideas on everybody else in the Imperium to mess with them so that they can stay in power. Then you have a dystopian future. But I don't think we can imagine that happening in 40k. And it would be or in any of the other books. We couldn't imagine the Federation being that way. We couldn't imagine the Empire being that way. In Star Wars, by the way, yes, look at the Empire. When you get all the way up to the top in the Emperor, these Sith Lords truly believe in their philosophy. You know, they're not secretly just exerting all of this control and then they go off and do something else. Nope, it's pretty clear everybody believes in order and how they are imposing that order. And that's the same in 1984. When they get up to the top, you don't pull behind the curtain and secretly see the leaders in the 1984 and Eurasia and all the other countries are secretly just playing games so that they can go and do whatever they want. They don't. They believe in what they're doing. Brave New World, same thing. The Alphas and the Alpha Pluses. You go up there, they believe in what they're doing. In fact, in order to become the Alpha Plus, you needed to have been against it at first. And then they take you to a side and they show you how or why the system was created and why it works, and the opposition converts into the very people who support it. You see? But on the other hand, look at other books, because you have 1984, and then you have 1984 Junior, which is Animal Farm, which they compare, a lot of people compare to 1984, but it's not, because the pigs become human at the end, right? So that makes them hypocritical. 1984, George Orwell didn't do that in 1984. So did he just forget? Or is he writing a different story? Dune. Major fascist, but that would, in order for Dune to be dystopian, then you'd have to sit there and say Paul and everybody else, the Kwisatz Haderach, secretly want or disagree with all of the principles of the government they created, and you know, prescience and future sight, that they secretly want to keep that. They just want to take it away from everybody else. No, they don't. So is that then dystopian? Do you see what I'm saying here? There's nothing wrong with fascism as long as A, it's not hypocritical, and B, you particularly agree with the philosophies that it's supporting. And almost every revolution is fascist in nature. Almost all republics are fascist in nature. Anytime you sit down and say that there is a principles of society that need to be followed, anytime you believe in human rights, you're a fascist. Okay? If you sit there and say discrimination is bad, protecting the environment is good, okay? healthcare, universal healthcare is good. Workers and people should not be exploited by profiteering corporations and plutocrats is good. Representation of people in the government, and that the government should also then be run by people, is that's good. That freedom of the press is good. That freedom of to assemble is good. And then you force these things in society to say these ideals will be forcibly enacted by a society. That's fascist, and that we will be against anybody who says racism is good. Well, we're against them, and we're going to be strongly against them. They must be stamped out. Oh, good. Then you're a fascist. Remember, e pluribus unum. The many are one. The very motto of the United States is the motto of fascism, along with the symbol, the fascius, or fascia, lictarum, I think, is on the U.S. seal. So, what's wrong then with fascism is the real question, I guess, I'm asking here. I hope that doesn't blow everybody's brain, but that's what I end up talking about every time somebody asks, is the 40k fascist? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.